In the last few days, we have been discussing out of these 10 Vipassana kilesas, impurities of insight, 3 things, namely Obhasa, Jnana and Piti, both from the theoretical and practical aspects. Today, we shall go on to discuss Passaddhi from theoretical and practical aspects. When we talk about Passaddhi, tranquility or calmness, other qualities such as lahuta, lightness or levitation, muruda, softness or malleability, tamanyuta, workability, pagunyata, proficiency, and ujjhagata, straightforwardness. These 2, 3, 4, 5 things are also involved as in an unavoidable manner, together with Passaddhi. Although they are not included in the 10 impurities of insight, they are involved as an unavoidable mental states, together with Passaddhi. Passaddhi has to be understood as calmness in both the body and mind, free from distraction, worry, remorse, agitation, emotions. Instead, it is cool and peaceful. This uddhacca, restlessness, arises when one is very excited, or too much concern, too enthusiastic about, say, in this Dhamma arena, say Dhamma object. Regarding a Dhamma object, one becomes excited as a result of over-enthusiasm. Then, because of this excitement, the mind becomes restless, not being able to rest on the object, to rest calmly on the object. At that moment, the mind is agitated, not restful, therefore it is not calm. At times one feels remorseful, one feels remorse about anything which you have done, said, if you have done, said or thought wrong. This is kokocha, remorse, or remorse about a good thing not done. For instance, the practice of satipatthana not undertaken when you have the facilities. You miss the facilities, so you miss it, feeling a loss, and you will feel remorse about this, and not having done any beneficial things. So this worry and remorse leads to restlessness. And in this way, because of this worry, both the body and mind will not become calm. If you are free from this worry and remorse, then the mind and body become restful and calm. This is Passaddhi. This feeling of Passaddhi, calmness, is like when you go from a hot place to a cool place at once. Let us say you have come from a hot place outside and you go into the air-conditioned room, you feel very comfortable and calm. This is quite obvious because there is a certain contrast in the weather conditions. From being tired and wearied, you are relieved of this tiredness. That is also an example. So as also we have discussed before, for the beginning yogis, in the beginning of this insight knowledge, one is noting very well, the practice is going on well, and at that time one experiences unbearable sensations, dukkha vedana. The more you note, the worse it becomes. But with commitment and perseverance, without giving in, you note with strong determination, then this, as you are able to concentrate and gain insight, seeing dukkha vedana as dukkha vedana, seeing pain as pain, slowly this unbearable sensation will become weaker and weaker, until at last it fades away and disappears. Like the feeling when you are shouldering a heavy burden and you just throw it down. You become relieved of this burden, become peaceful, calm and comfortable, just like that. So from being tiredness, from tiredness, you are relieved of this tiredness at once. That is also another example. Hence it is said, Vedananupasana bhavanto pasadi bahulo. Noting or being able to connect with this dukkha vedana, pain, unbearable pain, contemplating on this, one becomes free at last of this vedana sensation, and one feels calm and peaceful physically and mentally. A lot of calmness by both by body and mind. This is given by the expression bahulo, much calmness. At that time, one is able to cultivate the faculty of concentration, samadhi indriya. That means samadhi, concentration, becomes more deepened. This prior to passaddhi, calmness, what happened was this dhammoja, which we have discussed at one time, spiritual nutriments, namely Dubala piti, minor form of joy or rapture, and Balava piti, strong or powerful form of rapture or joy. All these things, known as dhammoja, spiritual nutriments, have happened prior to passaddhi. And then this dhammoja also arises as a result of freedom from hindrances, nivaranas. Being free from hindrances, one's mind becomes pure. In the text is given that while you are noting every arising object energetically and precisely, and as the noting mind is sustained on the object, one is free from nivaranas gradually. Gradually one becomes free from nivaranas. If one is free from nivaranas, then the practice becomes very, it goes very well, straightforward, and in a very proper way, free from impurities. The mind becomes clear. Minor forms of piti, rapture, joy, such as kodaka piti, the minor piti, kanika piti, momentary piti, forms of piti, and aukandika piti. All these things which make up Dubala piti, weak form of joy, have arisen. And because of these minor forms of rapture, as they gain momentum, these minor forms of piti leads to stronger forms of piti, balava piti, such as ubeka piti, feeling as though one is lifted up, or actually being lifted up, levitated, jerky feeling in the limbs, and then the fifth form of piti, namely parana piti, pervading or permeating joy, like feeling like a ball being inflated with air. The piti, this is the very strong form of piti. So from minor piti, one is led to stronger or more powerful piti, which happens at the tender stage of uddiyabhya jnana, knowledge of the first arising and passing of objects. So, for one who experiences minor form of piti and also the major form of piti, one's kaya, which is made up of body and mind. Now, this physical kaya, which is in Abhidhamma terms, has to be taken as Cetasika Khanda, that is the aggregate of mental states. But since we are talking in terms of the discourse method, Suktantra, we have to take it as the group of materialities. So we can take this one kaya as physical, a bodily feeling. And both mind and body becomes calm and tranquil. You achieve that. So, being free from audecha, kokocha, restlessness and remorse, one feels calm and tranquil physically and mentally. So this is from passaddhi, one is led to sukha again. Now, because one experiences piti in an extraordinary manner, one is led to passaddhi. And together with passaddhi are associated these mental states, namely lahuta and so on, levitation, lightness and so on. All these things are bound to arise together with passaddhi. Once we are able to take these nutriments, minerals, vitamins, and essential elements in the body through the food or medicines, then since we have enough of these oja, nutriments, this what is known as aharaja rupa, the nutriment-produced materialities begin to occur or happen, thus sustaining what is known as rupa jivita, physical life continuity, life element, you might call it. This rupa jivita can be sustained. There are two things: physical life, mental life, and life-sustaining power becomes strong. And together with which we're able to sustain these the physical cells. Cells will be able to energize ourselves so that we become healthy and can live a long life. Just like when you have this lotus plant or flower in the pond, if there's enough mud at the bottom, it is nutriments for the lotus, and the water, enough water in the pond, then this lotus is bound to bloom or blossom and be kept alive. So too with this jivita rupa, life-sustaining materiality, or materiality which sustains life. As a result of this food and medicines, with the nutriments which are contained in them, one is able to keep alive because all these new materialities are arising, new cells are forming. And in this way, one becomes healthy and strong and alive. So too in the mind, with the entry of nutriments, spiritual nutriments in the mind, as they come in, one feels a mental transformation as well as the material transformation together with the mind. Then because of this transformation, one is free from worries and restlessness and feel calm physically and mentally, together with experiencing, together with these mental states, as we have mentioned, levitation and so on, which are all included under the list of Dhammoja, spiritual nutriments. They all arise. At that time, when yogis are able to experience calm physically and mentally, one will feel weightless, very light, physically and mentally very active and alert, so that when one is walking, one feels as though one will not feel one's legs or feet. So light will one feel. Now every time one changes posture also, one may not feel the sense of these limbs, because it's very light. And also at that time the yogi may think like this, think highly of himself or herself, that if one walks some distance, one will be able to cover it in no time, like flying from one place to another. Because the mind is very fast, and also one has this desire to walk. So sometimes for some yogis for a while they might even make a little run, because they are not able to control that desire. This is lack of control. So that when one does so, other yogis may think he or she has gone mad. In fact, it is a result of this mental alertness and activity, and thinking that one can cover this distance in no time. Actually, this is lack of restraint of one's mind, and if one is able to recover by mindfulness, one will be as usual. As for passaddhi, prior to the practice, one's physical and mental behaviors will become very rough and coarse, and this with passaddhi, such coarseness of behaviors, they become softened. Prior to the practice, in the beginning, before one feels calm, passaddhi, one may be very rough and coarse in one's physical and verbal behaviors. When one speaks, one may speak very harshly and very roughly. But when one feels calm, passaddhi, as a transformation physically and mentally, so that with passaddhi one becomes soft and malleable physically and mentally, so that one becomes humble without any pride or conceit, and if one encounters some object of adoration, one will pay respect to the object of adoration. Just like the goldsmith can mold its jewelry, golden jewelry, by softening it with heat and other chemicals and so on, as much as he or she wants, he or she can mold this, because he or she has all the facilities with the application of heat and other chemicals. So also at this stage, one is able to mold one's physical and verbal behaviors. And as for the meditation teachers as well, they find some change in this yogi. Previously it was difficult to shape or mold this yogi, but now he or she has changed to become soft and malleable, so that he or she is ready to be molded, to be shaped, to be fashioned. And then when one notes one object, every object will be brought to conscious attention without any overshooting or slipping off Instead, it will be always concurrent and consistent. So like the goldsmith being able to mold his or her jewelry in the right way. And then also this yogi may feel like staying alone, practicing in a cool, in a cozy place, alone on his or her own, just practicing in a very calm manner. In this way, one's physical and verbal behaviors will become soft and malleable in an extraordinary manner. Just like a goldsmith applies heat to his or her jewelry in order to melt it down so that it becomes malleable, and so also it becomes workable in whatever mold, in whatever shape he or she wants. So too with the practice, when once there is transformation in one's physical and verbal behaviors, in the practice of mindfulness, one's mind will become workable, and that means as much as one is able to give attention, one will be able to do so without any problem. Though one sits for 1 or 2 hours at a stretch, there will be no tiredness or weariness or pressure or burning sensation. Without any problem, one is able to sit comfortably and with a feeling of well-being, without distraction, and being able to activate mindfulness continuously for a long time. Although one at first thought of sitting for 1 hour, it may drag on to 2 or 3 hours. And this is Kamanyata, workableness, being able to mold one's mind in whatever way one wishes to be. With both physical and mental strength, power, this is especially mental power becomes very strong. And so are these two powers or two mental states, two wholesome mental states, Hiri Bala and Ottappa Bala. The strength, the strong will, and the strong will not to lose mindfulness, fear of losing mindfulness. All these mental powers will arise in one's mind. So that the noting mind is self-continuous without gap, without break, leading to extraordinary strength in one's faith and enthusiasm. So are the powers of mindfulness, concentration and wisdom. These mental powers reach the stage of controlling faculty, so that these mental powers, strength arise both in the mind and the body. So without being able to slacken one's energy, one's noting process will become very proficient. Like when we are saying this, the usual salutation to the Buddha, Namo Tassa Bhagavato, we are able to do that anytime, anywhere, without stammering, or without forgetting, without breaking, continuously, consistently. So will be your mindfulness, which will become very consistent. You'll be able to bring every object to consistent attention. And this is proficiency, pagunyata. At the time, one will be free from low and vulgar forms of physical, verbal, mental behaviors, and is willing to confess what mistakes, what wrong one has done, and also free from hypocrisy, not wishing to pretend what one does not possess. These are called Maya Satya, which is dishonest behaviors. One will become free from such things at this stage. As human nature is human nature is such that one wants to hide one's mistakes. Now at this stage, one is prepared to confess what mistakes one has done previously. Or one may confess to oneself or to a reliable teacher, confess one's mistakes to a reliable teacher. So human nature is to be hypocritical, dishonesty at times. Now one will be free from such things. This is ujjhagata, rectified behaviors in an extraordinary manner, straightforwardness. There's a transformation. One's heart mind becomes transformed. So is the behavior and one's lifestyle. Appreciating this quality of being free from maya satya, being free from hypocrisy, dishonesty, appreciating that, one feels like possessing this quality of honesty. This is change of one's lifestyle, transformation of one's life during one's immediate lifetime. So this is just like when you press a button, there's a change from black to white. As a teacher, he has seen many yogis, and there are yogis who come and confess what they have done. First confess to themselves, and later to confess to the teacher what they have done in the past. They have killed even human beings. And then he has done all sorts of wrong. All these things are confessed. And then they also feel remorse and say that from now on they are going to lead a pure life. This is quite commendable. The Dhamma can change one's mind to become honest from the state of dishonesty. Dhamma can rectify the Dhamma practitioner so that when one walks the right path, one is bound to reach the right destination. That is honest and pure destination. At this eternal stage of Uriyabhyajnana, this Passaddhi and 6 other mental states arise in all these postures, in 4 postures: standing, sitting, walking, lying, or bending, stretching, and so on. Whatever you do, even in the mindfulness process, you won't see anything unwholesome. You won't encounter anything unwholesome. It will always be wholesome and always be satisfactory, so that you feel calm physically and mentally and well-being. Like when you put nutriments, physical nutriments in the body, your physical life system becomes very strong. Rupa Jivita becomes very strong. And this is a function, and also not only will it become very strong, but it will strengthen its associated mental states, because Rupa Jivita is one of the mental states, and it exists together with other mental states. So not only will it become strong, it will also strengthen other associated mental states as a function. So too with the mind. As the spiritual nutriments enter one's mind, you will experience a transformation, in the form of in terms of sense of well-being and happiness. Just like physical nutriments cause physical happiness with physical nutriments, so also these spiritual nutriments can transform your mental behaviors, mental state. Just like when you take food which contains these nutriments, essential elements, and you chew properly, you are bound to feel or taste one of the 6 or one or more of the 6 flavors. When you put the food in the mouth, you have to chew properly in order to experience that. If you just swallow it without chewing, then you will not taste the flavor of the food. As the flavor of the food, as the nutriments diffuse through the body, then these nutriments will cause their functions. So too with the yogis in their practice, as they're noting the object energetically and precisely, so as to connect with the object noted, they are bound to see the flavor, the qualities of these objects noted, as much as they note properly, such as the characteristics of the object, such as the rising and passing way of the object, and their unsatisfactoriness, and their selfless impersonal. In this way, you are bound to see the minute details in an extraordinary manner, as you are able to connect deeply with the object noted. Especially with passaddhi, there's bound to be well-being and delightful happiness. As is said in this expression, passaddhi kayo sukham vedeti. Passaddha kayo sukham vedeti. With passaddhi, calmness, together with the accompanying mental states like lightness, levitation, workability, malleability, softness, proficiency, rectification, this will lead to delightful happiness. As one's physical and verbal behaviors, states become calm and tranquil and comfortable, this will lead to happiness. And then what does this happiness, what does this peace comes from? This peace comes from freedom from bondage, such as the hindrances to progress, kamachanda, sense desire hindrances. So only when one is free from them, there will be peace, leading to happiness. Now where does this freedom from bondage come from? Freedom from bondage comes from security. If one is secure, physically and mentally, then there will be this freedom. And this security comes from protection. Protection, by protecting the mind, mindfulness is the way to protect one's mind. And with the proper protection, with the secure protection, with the practice of satipatthana, to protect the mind not to let these nirvanas and hindrances enter your stream of consciousness, by noting, by able to connect with the object energetically and precisely, with one moment of mindfulness, for one moment, one will be protected. And with that protection, one will be secure. As much as one is protected, there will be security. And as much as there is security, one will be free from the bondage of these unskillful, unwholesome hindrances. And as much as one is free, one's mind and body will become calm and peaceful, which is a cause for happiness. There's a feeling of this. Sukha means a feeling of happiness, delight, freshness. However, this doesn't happen on its own. It happens in association with the noting mind, or noting consciousness. At the time, the yogis will become very fresh and delighted, just like when you are breathing polluted air, you feel very uncomfortable, unhappy. But once you are able to breathe clean air, then you feel fresh and delighted and happy. Such is mental happiness, sukha. As a result of this mental happiness, there will be physical happiness, physical well-being and health. Therefore, at that time, if the yogi has some sort of diseases or sickness, one becomes cured of this sickness at that stage. Furthermore, by reflecting upon this state of mind and body, one will become extraordinarily delighted. In the beginning of the practice, building up momentum in one's practice, starting with the beginning, the initial insight knowledge of Sammasana Jnana, knowledge of reflection, comprehending the characteristics, noting these unbearable sensations, dukkha vedana. One will be perspiring, sweating all over the body, and with the sweat brings out all the undesirable elements within the body, and especially when one reaches this Uddiyabhya Jnana, the knowledge of the rising and fast rising and passing away, both body and mind becomes calm and peaceful, leading to delightful happiness, sukha. At that stage, as a result of good blood circulation, some diseases might be cured. Yogis might be cured of these certain diseases, or totally cured. But more so, more obvious at the stage of Sankarupeka Jnana, knowledge of equanimity towards all formations. At the time, reflecting upon one's state of mind, both mind and body at this stage, one feels an itch to reveal this to one's fellow yogis. One cannot help but say something about this to your friends and associates. Based on this fulfillment of piti passaddhi, together with the spiritual nutriments such as lahuta, levitation and so on, one becomes calm and delightfully happy. At this stage, this kind of happiness excels manifold the human and the happiness of human devas. And in this connection, the Buddha has given these two verses in order to qualify or just to praise this state of affairs, state of mind. So in this way, the Buddha has given these two verses about this happiness which excels the happiness of man, human and devas. Now this expression Dhamma rati, Dhamma delight, being able to live with Dhamma. Previously, we have lived with Kama, sense of pleasures of senses, thinking that they are the best thing, especially the pleasures of physical contact, kamaguna, sense pleasures of bodily contact as being the best. For this, people work hard in order to achieve this kind of happiness. So now at this stage of Uddiyabhya Jnana, one experiences exceptional happiness and delight. So at this stage one will say to oneself, alas, this kind of happiness surpasses manifold the other happiness with comparison. That kind of happiness, which is the happiness of sense pleasures, may be good, but they are fatal, dangerous and perilous. Whereas this kind of happiness, one will become convinced that this kind of happiness is harmless, not perilous and deathless. In the world there are all sorts of means of happiness, from the stage of a young child to elderly, the stage of elderly. They have each has his or her own means of happiness in one's own right. As for these people who enjoy sense of pleasures, they have their own means of sense of pleasures. Those who wish to see good things, they enjoy good sights. Those who wish to hear good sound, they enjoy this good sound. smell, taste, touch, and even thoughts. So in this way, each has his or her own means of happiness. There are all means of happiness, many means of happiness in the world. As for Dhamma delight, the Buddha said that Dhamma delight excels all this happiness. As is given this Sabbarati, Dhammarati, Jinati. Of all the delights, that means worldly delights, Dhamma delight is the best. It wins over them. It wins victory over them. So by comparing, one will become convinced at the stage of the tender stage of Udayava Jnana. Until then, one cannot, of course, think about this happiness by just thinking. So one has got to practice in order to experience this Dhamma delight by oneself. So in the world, there are, as we have discussed, there are many means of happiness. For instance, a child has its own toy to play with, but when it is playing with this toy, same toy all the time, daily, then it becomes too much commonplace. So he or she gets wearied, and it wants another one, a new one. So are with other people with their own means of happiness. They ever want new things coming all the time. They're never satisfied with just one thing. So there's no such thing as one kind of happiness all the time. We have to create many new things all the time to make us happy. Not so in the Dhamma practice. If one is able to receive this spiritual nutriments in our mind, then with sukha, one will experience a kind of happiness which is good in itself. And this is good because it is good in itself. You don't need a new one. It is always fresh. And there's something you don't want to relinquish. This is something you want to always keep it with you. And such a happiness exists only in the Dhamma practice, in the field of the Dhamma. And for this, Sayadaw says, he gives full guarantee. And that's all for today. That's all for today. That's all for today.